Hi, I'm Tyson with Mosko Moto, and today we're running you through how to install your new panniers onto your motorcycle rack. When you purchase this kit, not only are you going to receive both these panniers here, but you're also going to receive all the mounting hardware, which includes 16 bolts, as well as 8 washers, 8 pucks, the T20 Torx that you'll need in order to tighten the bolts down, as well as 2 of these wedges. The wedges are installed on the back of your pannier, and how you go about removing that is you have the speed pin here, and you simply pull that out, and at that point you can grab the wedge and slide it right out. If you're not familiar with the speed pin, it is quite a spectacular system to keeping the pannier on the bike. There's a separate video diving into that a little bit more if you're interested. Once you have the wedges removed, you will want to take the bolts and apply blue Loctite onto the bolts. This will ensure that they don't back out as you're riding the bike down the road. Also, if we're looking at this rack here, you can see that it just has these round bars on it. With the pucks, they do fit a multitude of different racks. On the very outside of the puck, you have this really large gap here. That's going to fit a rack such as an SW Motec. The center one here is going to be something for a square rack like a Happy Trails. And then all the way down in the very bottom, you have a little bit of a rounded section there. That's going to fit a lot of the racks out there that are possibly OEM or your Hepco, your TourTech, your Givy, that type of stuff. Again, on this KTM 790, this is a round rack, and so this puck is going to fit nicely into that round slot right there. Now, a pro tip here, when you go to install the wedges on the rack, something that I would do is first take your washer and put your bolt through it, and then actually install it on the wedge, and start on the bottom hole and actually thread the bolt into that puck just a little ways. You don't want to tighten it down, but you can just get it started. If you do this on all 4 of them, what happens is when you go to install it on the bike, it actually is held up and you can grab it with the other bolt a lot easier without having to try to line everything up independently, and you can't really see it. Just a little bit easier to do it that way. Also, something that should be mentioned here is that you can see that there are actually 5 slots on this wedge. You have 2 up here as well as the 3 on the bottom. What the third one's for on the bottom is that if you have a rack that has an obstruction on it that you're not able to mount the puck in one of these outside slots, you can always grab this inside one here. So you'd either have 2 here or 2 here as well as the 2 up here. So you are going to have 4 in the end, but the 5th slot is not going to be needed, and that's there in case you have an obstruction on your rack. You can see that the wedge does need to be flat up against the rack in order for it to mount, and not all motorcycles have a flat rack here. Some of the BMWs out there have a curved rack that goes around the exhaust, as well as other motorcycles. And we've got you covered because Mosko does offer this accessory here that would mount onto a curved rack, giving you a flat surface for that wedge to mount onto. At this point, you can see that the wedge is installed loosely onto the rack. It does have some adjustability up and down in these grooves, as well as left and right on the rack. So if you have a rack that follows this general shape, the wedge should be able to mount onto it. I have both bolts going through the washer with the Loctite applied. They then thread into the puck on the back. Now, you can see how I'm holding this tool. If I hold it like that and just snug these bolts up, once they're snugged in that position, what I like to do is flip the tool around like this, and this gives me just a little bit more torque, but I don't want to over tighten these, so I only go about a half a turn here on the top, as well as on the bottom. At that point, that one is done. It's snug and tight. I'm going to finish the other 3, at which point the wedge is going to be fully installed on this side of the bike. You're now ready to conquer the world. With your pannier in hand, you have the frame on the back side. What I do is put the frame up against the rack on the motorcycle and literally slide it down over the wedge and then give it one nice solid push. You can actually hear that speed pin click into place. That's how I know this bag is on here and it is not coming off. No matter how hard I crash, what rocks I hit, or what branches may come out and snag my bag, it's going to be on my bike, which is something I always like. I'd love to tell you that I'm sorry about this really dirty bike. However, I'm not, because we get out there and ride. This one recently came back from a Death Valley trip, as well as the luggage, which is why it looks a little bit used and a little bit dirty. If you guys have any questions about this mounting system, please leave them in the comments section below and we'll get back to you. You can also email us at moskomoto@moskomoto.com. Now, if you think you've seen me before out there on YouTube, it's because maybe you have. Callie and I are over on Adventure Rig. If you're interested in more gear reviews, please check out that channel. It's in the link below, or over on Instagram at Adventure Rig. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tyson with Mosko Moto.